Hi, everybody.
Hello.
We are live tonight with Jennie and Michelle, writer besties, talking about our new books that just came out this week.
It's the writer version of Laverne and Shirley. Who would you be, Jenny? Would you be Laverne or Shirley?
So Laverne, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'd probably be Shirley.
You know, that's so funny because I just was singing. I just had that song stuck in my head last week.
Best song
Salt and Pepper Corporated. Gonna do it. That's so funny. That just shows what a great wavelength we have between the two of us. So, Michelle, why don't you introduce yourself for our listeners out there, our watchers?
Awesome. Well, we are super excited to be with everybody tonight, and we are here because Jenny and I, yes, are writer great friends, regular great friends too, as you know, you get to be with other authors, you know. And we also, I think it's the first time in our career that this week we are sharing a book birthday. So we both have new releases that came out on Tuesday, which is, what day is today? Thursday. So a couple days ago. So I will tell you a little bit about mine. So the book that came out this week is The Last Carolina Sister. And I super love the cover because I love Red Barnes, and the heroine of this story, Meredith, runs an animal rescue in the small town of Magnolia, North Carolina. And she, a lot of the rescued animals live in a barn very much like this. So I think the Harlequin Art Department just knocked it out of the park. And this is the third book in my Magnolia Sisters series about three women who previously didn't know they were related and came together when their father died in the coastal town of Magnolia, North Carolina. So in this book, we meet Meredith, who is the youngest and pretty much the spunkiest of the sisters. I think I've heard from some readers she was either somebody you loved or hated in the other two books because she was pretty opinionated. But this book is nice because you get to see a softer side of her. So, and I feel like I have a little bit of that in common with Meredith, where you kind of got to like dig deep underneath that shell to get to the sort of soft underbelly. But she thinks she doesn't need love, as many people do. However, when she meets wounded Dr. Ryan Sorensen, who moves in next door to her, all of that changes. So we get to revisit characters from the previous two books and the town, which I'm coming to love. And so I really appreciated all of the great feedback and reviews and just shout outs this week. It's made me feel super amazing because, as Jenny can attest, sometimes when you put a book into the world, it's like sending a baby off to kindergarten or your little kid, and you're like, oh my God, are they going to make friends? Are people going to like them? So thank you for all of the book club. I appreciate it. So Jenny, tell us about your new release.
Nice. Well, I am Jennie Marts. Introduce myself again. I didn't actually say my name before. And I write small town romance with humor and heart. And my newest book is in my Credence Horse Rescue series. It's When a Cowboy Loves a Woman. It's so hard to figure out how to hold it here. Whoa. Oh, man, look at that. So super hot cowboy, a little bit, kind of a crusty horse a little bit, which I think might be on purpose because, you know, this is a horse rescue book. So we don't want to have the horses look too great because this might be like a little rescued horse here. So this is in my Credence Horse Rescue series. And this book is like super special to me. I really love this book. It's two widows who have both lost their spouses through different widower. I'm not sure exactly how that goes. But in this story, along with a bunch of rescued animals, is also Brody Tate. He's a veterinarian and rancher, and he has this spunky 10-year-old daughter who is so cute. Her name is Mandy, and she is just such a sweetheart. And there's this whole line in there about bullying that I really just had a really, I don't want to say fun time addressing, but like, it was I don't know how to say it. Like, I liked being able to show how she reacted to it and how she dealt with it and how the parents dealt with it, because it is an issue that is such a big problem in our world. But anyway, Elle Brooks is the widower. Her kitchen catches on fire, and this, you know, super cute, hunky veterinarian who's not even a fireman, like, happens to show up because their other friend, like, sent him that way, and he gets her out of the house. And then I don't want to spoil anything, but they might fall in love. So I know. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? So I also love that there is, besides just rescued horses, which this is a really fun thing that both Michelle and we are huge animal lovers. And so we both always are putting, both of our books actually have some rescued animals in it. And neither one of us like to stick with just one rescued animal. We like to have a menagerie of different kinds of animals. So I think
not one breed either. We're not breed specific. We'll rescue anything.
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's a mini horse in this one named Seamus that I just love, who eats jelly beans, and Spartacus the tortoise is in this one, and there's a horse who loves to be sung to. So anyway, that is this book.
Nice. So while you were doing that, and I dropped your link into I got to go over to the comments, and there's so many fun people here. Marcy and Louisa and Diane, and it's not letting me scroll up, but I like want to wave at everybody. So we're super glad to have you guys hanging out with us.
Yes, we should welcome all of our groups, because we are coming live to you today in Michelle Major Books group, in Jennie Marts Books group, in the Isn't It Romantic book club. Thank you so much for hosting us tonight. And also in Team Sourcebooks and Sourcebooks Romance Reads. Sourcebooks is my publisher, and so we're in that group tonight, as well as Abby's Dangerously Dark Darlings. Abby Rhodes, her reader group, is hosting us tonight. And
thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I can't remember who I'm missing. So we're also, tonight, we love your comments. We love your names are all popping up. Most of your names are popping up. Some of you say Facebook user, so we apologize if it doesn't say your name. But we love getting comments. We love getting questions, and we're going to do a giveaway tonight. We're each going to give away a $10 Amazon gift card for somebody that leaves us a comment or a question.
Yeah, so it's great. So if you've commented, if you've said hi, you are entered. And if not, wave to us. Let us know you're out there. Ask questions. We will answer anything. We've gotten a few that have come in prior. So what's next on our little... So Jenny's the organized one in this, which is actually pretty funny. But she is.
It's funny because I might be organized tonight, but in our writing process, Michelle is the one who writes ahead, who by the time her deadline shows up, she's already turned in her book like 4 weeks prior.
No, I wish.
Okay, several days prior. And I'm the one screaming in at the end, like, oh my gosh, I'm staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning every night, wondering where all my time went.
So Laverne and Shirley. There you go.
Exactly. So we should talk about how we met, because we have been friends for, I was trying to figure it out today, I think 12 years.
Wow. I mean, we became friends when we were toddlers, clearly. So.
Yeah, exactly. We actually met at Romance Writers of America, in a writer group, and actually we were in Pikes Peak Writers together as well too.
Yep. And it was at a retreat, right? Didn't we meet at a writing retreat and another one of our friends' cabins in Salida?
Yep. So I'd shown up to the meeting and our local chapter, and we have another friend who is just like so much fun and the most welcoming person you could ever meet in your life. And she was like, you have to come to this retreat. I didn't know a single person there. She was like, it's all full, but it's fine. You can sleep on the floor in somebody's room. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And my husband is like, seriously, you are going into the mountains for an entire weekend to sleep on the floor of two people you don't know with a bunch of other people you don't know. And you think this sounds fun?
Yes. Yes.
I really did.
But I think the thing that amuses me from that weekend is, so yeah, Jenny was the new girl. And so we sort of had bedrooms assigned based on, the different friend groups. And later she was like, well, I wanted to be in your guys' bedroom because you were like the popular people.
I know.
Which I have never been the popular person in my whole entire life. So the fact that like you just set a different bar of like what authors do at retreats versus what other people do at weekends away and stuff. So, but gosh, that was fun. We had like tarot card readings and talks about craft, and then we all sit next to each other, not talking as we're writing. So
I love sharing our stories about our writing retreats too. So I did want to get in that cool kids room. Those girls are like my best friends. So I finally made it into the cool kid room. And there's 4 of us now that we went on a writing retreat a couple of years back to the same cabin, just the 4 of us. And all these people were telling us like, oh, here's where you guys could go dancing. Here's some great restaurants. Oh, here's the best shopping that you guys need to check out. And we're like, no, you do not understand what we're doing here this weekend. And it was pretty much just a weekend of us. We all sit in the same room. We talk occasionally, and we just have our laptops on our laps, and we just write and write and write and write and write. And we don't go dancing. We don't go out to dinner. We don't go shopping.
We just write. Okay, Jenny, you have a question, and I have a question. So, why rescue horses? Do you have experience with horses? This is from Marcy. So thank you, Marcy.
Oh, hi, Marcy.
Somebody else asked if you based your horse rescue on real life experience with horses. So tell us your story.
There you go. So I grew up on a farm in Kansas, and we did have horses. We did have a little Shetland pony named Trigger. None of them were, I don't know that they were rescue horses. I know that my dad is a veterinarian, and he actually traded veterinary work for some old cavalry saddles. So instead of sitting on those cool, saddles that you see on the rodeo with actual cushioning, we actually had these little baby, cavalry saddles that people really rode in the cavalry. So I just love horses, and I haven't had any experience rescuing one, but maybe I could. We live in town. I don't know if I could fit one in the backyard. I could try.
Hey, I'm zoned for horses. You can bring it to my house. So
perfect. I live in the same town. We live about 10 minutes away from each other.
Yes. So, but this is probably the most FaceTime we've had in over a year, a little bit. So one other time. Okay, so my question is, I do write. So I write both single title, which the Last Carolina Sister is, and I also write category for Harlequin in the special edition line. And the question is the process the same for each? Because the word counts are quite a bit different, 25 to 30,000 words different minimally. And I would say my creative process is the same with how I come up with stories, which I can't really explain because it just involves a lot of walking around or standing in the shower, kind of processing stuff. But when I write, I would say the special edition, the shorter books are much more a really strong light on the couple, on the hero and the heroine, because you really have to develop their story in that word count. Whereas when you write single title, there's a lot more room to put in, more secondary characters and explore the town. And like for this series, explore the sister relationship. So I really enjoy doing both because it kind of keeps both things fresh. So, okay. So Jenny, you have another question. You write for 2 publishers, Source Books and Hallmark. Do you have deadlines that over?
We both have that. So, and we both have written for different houses. I've got books with Entangled, as well as indie books, as well as Source Books and Hallmark, and definitely have I have overlapping deadlines right now. And one thing that's, Michelle said we don't see each other a ton. I mean, because of the pandemic, in past years, we would meet in coffee shops and we would write together a lot. But this last year, we haven't seen each other much, but we still talk on the phone. Yeah,
we're phone talkers. You know how there's some people like in your lives who like to talk on the phone and some people like to text. I think Jenny and I are both phone. It's like from growing up in the 70s with my mom on the phone with the cord and the tab in one hand, avoiding the kids. So I like to talk on the phone and I like to talk to Jenny. So
I know, so we do. So we actually, and with our other couple of friends too, we usually start out the year with, planning out our year and figuring out what all our deadlines are. We're old school, so we like writing stuff down. We like calendars. We have calendars posted to the walls. We work with paper calendars and just kind of try to work out where our deadlines fall. And yeah, we really work hard at scheduling. So maybe this is where we talk about our Sharon asked about how long it takes to write a book. Oh, wait, actually, Mitch, you should answer. Do you have the same editor for HQN and Special Edition?
I do. And I feel super lucky. I had another editor who bought my first book for Special Edition, Shayna, and I dearly love her. And then I had a couple of different editors, and then Gail Chasen, who is the senior editor for Special Edition, took me on, and then she helped me with the single title books. And so we've worked together for probably, if I've written, so this book is number 35 for Harlequin, and I probably worked with Gail on 32 of them. So I feel really lucky for that.
So I see this hilarious comment that says Jenny is great in coffee lines, and all it says is Facebook user, but I guarantee I know that this is R.L. Merrill. There was a day, and we have done this for years too, when we have gone to conferences, we've challenged each other to like meet other people. And I was at a conference, and I don't know why, but I was probably having imposter syndrome or something. And I told myself, like, I'm going to walk downstairs, and the first person that I meet in the Starbucks coffee line, I'm going to talk to them and I'm going to become friends with them. And literally R.L. Merrill was the person like in the line. And we have been friends for, I don't know what, like 5 years now. We followed each other's career. I knew it. There she is. I knew that was you. So we literally met in a Starbucks line at a conference because I just told myself, I'm going to make myself talk to someone like in the line. So there you go. That's so funny. One of my favorite moments too. Okay. So Sharon asked, how long does it take to write your books? What do you think, Michelle? How long does it take?
So we do it differently. I am a fast drafter, so I write the books really fast. So fast for me. It's not fast for some people, but I write typically 10 to 15,000 words a week. So if it's an 80,000 word book, I usually am finished in about 5 or 6 weeks with the draft, and then I take another 3 to 4 weeks to deep edit it before turning it in. So that's so I feel like I write a book every 2 to 3 months, which seems like a lot, right? It doesn't feel like a lot when I'm doing it because it's such a great job. I'm super excited. I love to do it, but
And I would say the same thing. So when Michelle's saying that we write differently, I am not a fast drafter. I'm a slower drafter. We both shoot for this like 10 to 15,000 words a week goal. That's kind of how we set our week our weeks and our months up. But I will write slower because when I'm done, I'm pretty much done. It takes me like 3 days after the book is written. So I edit as I go, and Michelle like just gets it all out and then goes back and edits it. So, which we could talk a smidge about writing sprints because we both are big sprinters and we're in a sprint group together, which means that we try to hold each other accountable. And a sprint is just like a focused writing time with the emphasis on the word focused.
And don't you feel like, I mean, I think we did this and we would get together, you guys more, not me as much because I still have kids at home, but we'd get together in coffee shops and things and write before the pandemic. But gosh, I feel like the sprints have become really so important. So we'll text, our little group and say, okay, who's up for 40 minutes or 45 minutes? And you set a timer and go. And, when this pandemic started and we were used to being at home, but it was just different. And, that sort of the heaviness, I think at least for me, I rely on the sprints a lot more just as that connection and to help with the accountability and motivation and feeling connected to other people. Because it is a job where you're pretty isolated. And then in a year where you're even more isolated, you guys have been a real lifeline for me. So thanks.
Well, I think it also helped us when we were in coffee shops that we would sprint, because then we would set the timer for 40 minutes and that meant we couldn't talk to each other.
Right.
And we had to like be focused on the writing. And then we could take like a 10-minute break and actually blab out all of our stuff to each other.
And I don't know if you do this, Jenny, but when we sprint, I have this thing called Freedom that's on my desktop. So I lock myself off of the internet. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. It works better for me if I cut out my ability to have any distractions, because it's so easy when you get to a paragraph or a scene that's not working well to just flip over to Facebook and just see what's going on for a minute. And then 20 minutes later, you're just stuck there. So
yeah. I do not have Freedom, which sometimes is why Michelle gets 1,000 words in the sprint and I get 600 or 800. Although I hardly ever can get 1,000 words in 40 minutes. But I will give a shameless self-promotion for my Writing Sprints journal, which I just happen to have right here next to my desk, thankfully.
As you should.
I wrote a nonfiction book that is to help writers. That's about tracking your writing, managing your time, and increasing your productivity. And it teaches writers or anyone how to sprint. And then it has like a sprint journal and a place for plotting notes and to-do lists. And it's just a way to kind of track your writing and track your sprinting and plan out your books. And it helps me, and I wrote it, so hopefully it would help other people. Oh gosh, we have way more questions. We're so behind.
How many books we wrote before we sold?
Well, does it count like the book I wrote in 8th grade? Because I decided when I turned 40 that I was going after this thing with everything I had, and my first book is my first book. So my first book is Another Saturday Night, and I Ain't Got No Body. And in 2012, one of our other friends was super amazingly successful at indie publishing, and kind of was the push that I needed to try my hand at indie publishing. And so I put that book out, and then my second book, Tucked Away, is the one that got picked up by Entangled. So I wish I had some other books underneath the bed that I could pull out and edit and turn into someone, but yeah, my first book was my first book.
So my I guess it was book 2.5 5. So I came to romance as a reader with historical romance, and it's still sort of my like binge candy reading. I love historical romance. And so I started writing one, and I still have about half of it. I mean, it's halfway written somewhere, but historical romance, gosh, the details of it, of those worlds. And I had 2 little babies in diapers, and I was like, I don't have time for this research. And so I had this idea. There was a meteorologist in Denver that I just had followed her career and really loved her and thought she was so fun. And I thought, oh, I'm going to write a book with a meteorologist heroine. And then, but it was a longer book. And so that didn't sell. And then the book that sold to Harlequin was the first kind of category length book I wrote. So it was my second full book that sold. And then the meteorologist story, a couple years later, I sold it to Montlake. And so that one was published. But that was kind of the only one I had under the bed that I could dust off. So.
Nice. I see I have a question about, are you going to write book 3 for the horse rescue series? And that one's already written. So something that is, for those of you that are not in the publishing world, with traditional publishing, typically when we turn in a book, it doesn't come out for, well, at least for me, it doesn't usually come out for like a year. I think yours might come out a little sooner. Do the Harlequin ones come out a smidge sooner?
Well, it just depends on, last year I had 2 single titles come out, and this year they wanted 3. So it'll be a little bit closer. It just depends on the pub schedule.
Yeah. So once I turn them in, so I wrote How to Cowboy. So the 3rd book in this series is already written. It's called How to Cowboy. And it's actually, if you've read this one, it's about Cade, and it is up for pre-order right now. So.
And when does How to Cowboy release?
December.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So do you typically write 3 in a series, or do you explore more? What do you like to do?
So I have I have 6 different series. So no, I like to just keep going. I do have Hearts of Montana and Cotton Creek are both 3s. Cowboys of Credence is 4, but the page turners, my cozy mysteries, which somebody asked about what's some of our favorite series that we write. So the page turners, the cozy mysteries, that group of women is always just a fun. I love going back into that world. I love those women. And I love the world of Credence, Colorado. I love the mountains of Colorado. I love small town. Michelle and I both write small towns. We both write, we love writing friendships, and just the whole community of the small town. And I love writing old ladies. I was really, really close to my grandmas, and Michelle was really close to her grandma too. I can't remember one or both of your grandmas.
Both.
Yeah. So I think both of us really treasure that relationship of older women in our lives. And I love writing spunky, sassy old ladies. Oh, I forgot what the question was. So,
as if you have a particular series.
The page turners are 7 books long, and the horse rescue is a spin-off of Credence. So the Cowboys of Credence. So I love going back into that world too. So how about you? Do you have a favorite that you love?
I have a favorite. I feel like the favorite is always, the one that my favorite is usually the one that I'm thinking of in my head as I'm working on the one that I'm writing. But I do, like Jenny, I have a series with special editions set in a fictional town in Colorado, Crimson, Colorado. And it's the place I've spent the most time. There are 11 books in that series. And one of them was a Rita winner. So it's a really, I feel like I found my voice as an author in those books. And I loved that town. And I based it on some of the towns I loved in Colorado. So So that's special. But I love Magnolia too. I love where I am. And I purposely, when I was finishing up the Colorado series, I wanted to, I grew up in Ohio and I spent a lot of time vacationing and summers in North Carolina and the Outer Banks. And so it was an area that I knew, I mean, not as well as I know Colorado, but I felt, really comfortable with it and liked it. And I wanted a change, and it's been really fun as well.
Nice. Here's a question from Sharon. What is your favorite thing about being an author?
Not having to wear a bra at work. No. That is actually one of my favorite things.
That's definitely a favorite thing.
Is being at the house. And gosh, for me, I think most authors were really avid readers, and I fell in love with, I wanted to be the people in my favorite books, and they were like Anne Shirley and Laura Ingalls Wilder and Jo March. And so I was kind of this weirdy, introverted, awkward, shy kid who just wanted to read all the time. And so books were such a companion to me. So the fact that I get to do this job where, people come into my books in my world, God, I love that. So it's a dream job. So plus you don't have to wear a bra. I mean, it's a good thing.
What can we say about that? And I think some of my story is the same. I don't have an introverted bone in my body, so I don't know that that is the same, but I've been an avid reader I could read in kindergarten. My sister taught me how to read in kindergarten, and I have a favorite memory of being at the farm in the summer. My parents are divorced, and we would go spend the summer and just getting these giant stacks of books from the library. Mm-hmm. And, my dad would take us into town to the library every week. And I remember a librarian saying to me kind of, "Are you sure you can read all those books?" And my dad was like, "Yes, she can. I love big books and I cannot lie." But I always wanted to write a book. I always had book ideas swimming in my head, and I always wanted to be an actress. So look at I get to just meld these worlds of mine. So my favorite thing is being able to write the story that I want to read, and the readers. I know we both go to conferences, and we both totally love the readers. And I have to share something with you, because our friend Annie just called me out and said, "Hey, that's not wine that I'm drinking." So I'm not a huge drinker, but I love drinking out of wine glasses. And so I am drinking water, but I am drinking out of a glass that Michelle and our other friends gave me for my 50th birthday. So it's like a 50 and fabulous cup. So for my 50th birthday, I had a big party, and Michelle showed up with this giant basket. And so I use this tonight because it's my friend cup, but this could be wine. It's just clear wine with ice cubes.
It looks like water. It's wine that looks like water.
It is. It might turn into wine later. I don't know. All right. Man, I keep thinking of this. How about this one? What's some of your favorite authors?
Go ahead, Jenny. Jennie Marts is one of my favorite authors. So.
Yeah, I love Michelle Major books. Yeah, look at the one I'm reading right now. It's the last
Jenny on my Kindle.
So my favorites, I love women's fiction. I love humor. I love romantic suspense. Those are my favorites, which is why my very first book, I tried to mesh all of those together into kind of a romantic comedy mystery book. And I love Susan Elizabeth Phillips. When I met her in person, I started weeping. I tried to tell her how much she inspired me, and I was day 3 of a conference and had been staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning every night, and I just started crying. And she was like, I asked her if I could take a picture, and she's like, why don't I sign a couple more books and you collect yourself, and then we'll do it. And then like, which was awesome. And then I met her again, like later that summer. And I said, I'll try not to cry all over you this time. And she's like, well, why not? And I just fell in love with her even harder. So I love Janet Ivanovich. I love her books. And of course, the Queen. I love Nora Roberts.
Yeah, so I have very many of the same authors. Like I said, I love historical fiction or historical romance. So you know, I kind of cut my teeth reading Julia Quinn, the Bridgertons, back when they were just the books. So obviously her success with the Netflix series is super fun. Eloisa James, Elizabeth Hoyt, and Susan Elizabeth Phillips is actually reading the Chicago Stars series is what made me want to write contemporary romance, because I was just, you know, those books were so fun. Jill Shalvis, Rayanne Thane. I have a, so when I turned 40, and I'm turning 50 this year, but when I turned 40, my birthday is in the summer. So it's often at the Romance Writers of America conference. And I saw Nora Roberts and Laura on the escalator, and I was like, oh, right, so nervous. And I was like, Nora, it's my birthday today. Would you take a picture with me? And she was like, yes. I mean, she was really very generous, and I was probably shaking. And the year before, we had been in Hawaii, and Steven Tyler from Aerosmith had like nearly killed me in the water. And so I got my picture taken with him because he had come out to apologize for running me over in the ocean. And so I said to her, I was like, you know, last year on my birthday, I got my picture taken with Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, and he was on American Idol. I was like, but you are so much cooler. And she's like, of course I am. I mean, she just didn't miss a beat. So yes, and I would have to say probably Steven Tyler would even agree that Nora Roberts is cooler than he is. So
probably. Okay, Marcy wants to know about how much we plot before we write. So there's a thing called a plotter and a pantser. And I used to totally be a pantser, and now I'm much more of a plantser, because I think when you're trying to write so many books in 1 year, and when you're trying to write a book in 3 months, with writing sprints, we need to know what's happening. Otherwise, we just sit there in the writing sprint and just stare at the computer because we don't know what's happening. So I think at this point in our careers, like, we have to have our books plotted out. Not to say that neither one of us don't still get a surprise. I think both of us still can be writing along and all of a sudden be like, oh, isn't this perfect? This is a great idea to add. Also, Michelle is much better plotter and much more detailed plotter than I am.
No, you think I am, but
we need to get the 10 pages.
Yeah, but I you know, I only do them when Lana thinks our other friend thinks I need to. But I do
10-page worksheet of character development.
But it's character development. It's not specifically plotting, but to that end, I do a lot with character development. I really need to know my characters, you know, deeply before I start a book. And even when you're plotting out 3 books, you know, I feel like for me, I have to kind of understand what all 3 heroines are going to be, because you want them to be consistent through the series. But actual plotting, I only do 2 to 3 chapters at a time, because I don't often, like, I know where the story starts and I know where the story sort of ends, and, you know, what they have to get over and kind of the journey they're going on. But the details of it, I like to kind of discover as I write. And I feel like that keeps it fun and fresh when you're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. So, and it's always a great idea in your head. Sometimes it's hard to get into translate onto the page, but It's good.
It does. It does. Well, gosh, it looks like there's a question for me about why don't I tell you all about the real live ranch right next to my house, which is a perfect segue to mention my other new book that just came out in February. So Rescuing Harmony Ranch is, which I also just happen to have sitting right here, is my book that just came out in February with Hallmark Publishing. And this is a really super fun story. So I recommend, if you do not have a writer group of people in your life, I mean, my writer friends, these women in my life are just everything. So I had pitched a book to Hallmark, and it was taking forever. And my agent said, why don't you come up with another idea just in case, you know, we need to do something. And so our other friend Annie and I were walking around this little living history museum right next to my house called Rockledge Ranch, here next to Garden of the Gods in Colorado Springs. And I was, you know, bemoaning the fact that I didn't have a single writing idea. And Annie looked around and she said, we're walking through a Hallmark movie. And so we just on our walk kind of came up with this great idea for a blacksmith as a heroine and a marketing exec. Oh, yeah. The blacksmith as the hero, and having it set on a living history museum with the, you know, period clothing and a festival and matchmaking grannies. And so if you like Hallmark movies, this book is just came out in February. And
if you want to email Hallmark and tell them that that book should be a movie,
yes,
you can do that as well.
Yes, we're waiting to hear.
So Jenny, you have the two books. What's coming up in 2021 and 22 for you? What are you working on, and what's next publishing wise?
So How to Cowboy is coming out in December. That's the next one in this series. And then the next, I'll have another Hallmark book coming out at the beginning of 2022. That's called Cowboy Ever After. And it's another cowboy, and it's a timid romance writer, so obviously not based on me, who goes to Montana and to this ranch on Montana, and she meets the real life replica of the hero in her book, which is kind of fun.
It's very fun. Very fun.
Yeah. So how about you? What do you have coming out this year?
So I have Last Carolina Sister is the final book of the Magnolia Sisters, but we did sort of a spin-off series. So it's still set in Magnolia, North Carolina, but it's called The Carolina Girls. And so you'll meet some of the characters in this book, but the first book in that series, which is called Wildflower Season, and that comes out in May. And then the second in that series, Mistletoe Season, comes out in October. And then the third in that series comes out in March 2022, as well as a couple more special editions. And in addition to this and my special edition series, I also get to write in the world of the Fortunes of Texas, which is, gosh, they must be going on 27 or 28 years of this miniseries for Harlequin. And it's a group of 6 books and 6 different authors every year, and some of the most loyal readers. And it's just fun to work with, you know, collaboratively with other authors. So that book is written and it's coming out in January, and it was super fun. And so I can't wait for that one too.
So I have a question for our listeners, because we had a funny thing that happened to us a couple days ago, and I just have to share the story because it makes me laugh so stinking hard. So has anyone heard of a ginger beer called Cock and Bull?
I'm looking it up.
Ginger beer. So the other night, a couple nights ago, we're watching television, and my husband like pauses the movie, and he's like, Jenny, oh my gosh, look at Michelle's Facebook page. And she had posted something, or she was doing a live event or something. And the way I read it was that her favorite drink was Diet Coke and then some kind of ginger beer. But what it says in the thing is Diet Cock. and bull, ginger beer.
It's because of how it like the line broke on it. You're not the only person who said it to me. So I'm going to hold this. Oh, can you see it? So it's a brand of ginger beer called Cock and Bull. And because that was the context, I didn't even think.
And all I saw, like all Todd and I saw, was that we thought it was supposed to say that she liked Diet Coke and something, and it said Diet Cock. And I immediately am like grabbing my phone. I couldn't even text her. I was laughing so hard. I didn't even know what to text. I called and she didn't answer the phone because she was at a volleyball thing or something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to get this post down. And she's like, what happened? I'm like, unless you like Diet Cock.
So Robin has heard of it. I wonder if it's a Colorado thing, but yes.
My God, I was almost wetting my pants, and I was so like, we gotta get it down, we gotta hurry. And I was so freaked out, and then I was snort laughing so hard that I couldn't even text. And she's like, Michelle didn't even miss a beat. Like, I don't even know if she was laughing. She was just like,
well, okay. I think I was at a volleyball thing where my kid had just gotten quarantined, the team, because of course somebody had tested. So I wasn't in a very like funny mood at that point. So
and I'm messaging her like, unless you like Diet Cock, you better hurry up and get it.
But yeah, it was. I definitely think if anybody asked me, I mean, it's not even alcoholic. It's just like a root beer. It's ginger beer, and it's really spicy, and I love it. And I think if anybody asked me that question again, I will never answer that brand. So I learned my lesson.
That just killed me. I had to share that story because that just happened a couple nights ago. So, Michelle, you have another question that asks something about, do you happen to have, like, tell us about you and kittens.
Yeah. So, okay. So don't go anywhere because they're all sleeping behind me. I'm going to grab a couple. Oh, so my family, we foster kittens for a local rescue. And so this is, let's see, this is little Meg, and this is Stewie. They are very sweet. They are not, you can see Stewie just got neutered. So yeah, so we work with a local rescue, and one of the things so the reason I did it was actually kind of sad, is my daughter had bunnies, these 2 pet bunnies that she dearly loved, and somebody poisoned them. And it was just heartbreaking. And so like our house, I mean, she cried herself to sleep for like a month and a half after it. And I was like, I've got to do something to get something happy going on in our house with fur. And I already volunteered for the rescue. So I called them and was like, can I be a foster? And it just so happens I have 2 dogs and 3 cats, and all of my animals really like the kittens. So the whole reason to foster kittens is so that they get socialized and used to people and used to other animals, so they become successful pets. It's always, I mean, and Jenny has heard me being sad, but it's so hard for me when they leave because, you know, we do get really, I mean, they're cute. How can you not fall in love with them? But my husband, I know for sure if I was a foster fail and I started wanting to keep them, then we wouldn't be able to foster anymore. And I think we do a really good job of socializing these kittens. So
I asked her one time, I was like, how do you not keep everyone? And she said, because I want to stay married.
Yeah. So that's it. But I've had people, the great thing is, so if we're not friends on Facebook, please friend me, because most of the kitten stuff, you know, goes on my personal page. And I've adopted out close to 15 kittens through friends of mine on Facebook. And there's a reader that Jenny and I are both friends with who took 3 of them one time and now does Bookstagram with them. So it's super rewarding. So,
yep.
And kind of sticky, but super rewarding.
And we both have dogs, at least 2 at a time. So I have Cooper and Maggie, our golden retriever, and a Sheltie, and we're both big dog lovers. And I think I know every one of my books have a dog in it. Does every one of your books have a dog in it?
Yeah, I think, or a cat. I've done books with kittens too, but yeah.
Yeah, I've had I think I've had a couple cats, but every one of my books has like a dog that is a central character, like in the book, because we both just are big dog.
We are, and I have a lot of my animals in my books are named after my kids' friends because they always want to be in books, and that's an easy way to put them in. So my daughter has a really good friend whose name is Millie, and she really wanted to be in a book. And so in the book that I'm starting, she really wanted to be a guinea pig. So my heroine is going to have a guinea pig whose name is Millie. So
that is so funny. You know, people always ask me that about names of people, and I try not to put somebody's name in that I know unless they've already kind of given me permission. Right. My own book club asked me in my first book, they all wanted to be in it. And I have this adorable, precious, like lovely, sweet, sweet, sweet friend. And her name is Mona, and she is the killer. She was like, that's totally what I want to be in your book.
That's great. So Mimi asked, with all the books we've each written, do you have one that's your favorite?
You answer that first.
I again, whatever I'm working on is kind of my favorite. I would say overall, it's Christmas on Crimson Mountain, which is the book that won the Rita, and it is my favorite because it was just a gift book, and it doesn't happen very often, but it just like came out, and it was a woman who had breast cancer and couldn't have children, and then she ends up being the adoptive parent of these two, and they run across this crotchety writer who has lost his family, and it just all really worked. But Diane says it's like asking which kid you like the best, and that's true. Like you like the kids for different reasons. So I have certain heroes and heroines that I really love. I wouldn't say, that it is maybe my favorite because it was just a gift how it was written. So
I think I have a gift book like that too. My gift book was Hooked on Love, and it's a fly fisherman and a city girl, and I wrote that book in a month, and it all just poured out of me.
Which tells you with how many books we've each written, how rare that is that it happens. So
right. And I think probably the page turners are my favorites, but man, I like the Cowboys too so much because there's so much of like my life and my history. I grew up in this little town of Washington, Kansas, and then when my husband and I graduated college, we moved to Montana, to this little town called Fort Benton. And so a lot of my towns are this little mesh of Washington, Kansas and Fort Benton, Montana. And they're both these like 1,200 population towns that, if you read my books, they all have different names, but they pretty much are a mesh of like those two towns. And I think this is what I was going to say earlier, is people often ask us like, how do you keep all the characters straight? How do you keep the book straight? And I think it's just like, you can watch 6 or 8 different series on television. You can be, binging 6 or 8 different television shows that you love, that all the characters, that you can watch that show and get into that world as soon as you can watch Harry Potter and know all of those people, and you can watch Grey's Anatomy and know all of those people, and love both of those worlds. So I think for us, when we go into one of those worlds, it's just like going into a favorite TV show or a favorite movie or something like that, where you just fall right back in that world and that community.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I do. I do. I also have a gift for not remembering details. So it's all new to me every time. I'm like, wow, this is great. So
Exactly. Louise asked, "Can you still get my book Hooked on Love?" Yes, you can get all of our books. You could get all of our books on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. So
Walmart, lots of places. So,
and I would also mention that Michelle and I both have newsletters. Hers is probably a little bit more consistent than mine. But we both have newsletters that we would love to have you, if you are not already a subscriber. Mine's at jennymarts.com and hers is at michellemajor.com.
Yes, michellemajor.com.
And we both have newsletter signups. I also have a reader group, Jenny's Page Turners, that I would love to have you in my reader group. I'd love to invite you to that. And we both have, funnily enough, our author pages are similar as well too. Jenny Marts Books, Michelle Major Books.
And I'm pretty active on Instagram as well, just because I like the visual aspect of it. So I think I'm Michelle Major Books there as well. But
and I think I'm Jenny Marts Writer on that. So anyway, we would love to have you
stalk us.
Yeah, please. We love that. Yeah. What other? We're kind of finishing up. What other things did you want to do you guys have any last minute questions, or Michelle, do you have any last minute comments?
Okay, so I'm not the weepy one. Jenny is the weepy one. I would say we talked about, she's an extrovert, I'm an introvert. I was thinking about, she and I were talking earlier, and we were talking about opposites attract, and that's kind of how we are in our friendship. And I think let's say hypothetically you had a body to get rid of. Jenny would be the person who would come and she would comfort you, and she would cry with you and let you, just support you. And I would show up with a shovel and a headlamp and start digging. So I think we complement each other really well in that way. You need both of those people. You need the hug, and you need the person with the shovel too. Well, I could get really weepy because, Jen, I really do appreciate your friendship and, being on this journey with you and getting to celebrate our releases and our success. And it just makes it so much sweeter when you can share it with people who really understand. And we appreciate all of you guys being here because, gosh, without readers, honestly, sometimes I'm not sure you would keep going at this career, but it just means so much when someone reaches out or your book has touched them. So thanks, Jenny, for being a great friend, and thanks all of you for being with us.
Aw, you're gonna make me cry a little bit. Dang it, Michelle. Michelle's the perfect person to talk me off the ledge. I'm always the one calling her going, okay, I really need you. And then sometimes she really says great stuff, and then other times she's like, yeah, I call BS on that. I don't want to hear those dumb excuses. Get your butt in the chair and get to typing. But I would definitely agree with the body thing. We would both show up. We have been through a lot in the last 12 years together, and a plan to keep doing this for a long, long time. And what I would say to the readers is there is a lot of days when being a writer is, super glamorous. Let me just tell you that, first of all. Not really. It's like having really hard homework every single day, and we love it. We wouldn't trade it for anything. We know how blessed we are, but there are days when it is really hard. And I'll tell you what, getting a email or a message or a text or a Facebook message from a reader that says your book touched me, your book meant something to me, something in your story touched my heart and helped me through a hard time, some way that you made me laugh. I really needed that. We just eat that up. We love it, and it means everything to us, and that's what gives us the energy and the creativeness to just keep going and keep digging back in. So we adore each other, but we do this for you guys. We do this for the readers, and we love hearing from you. So you might think maybe this doesn't matter, but man, it matters to us.
It does.
So
thank you. This was so fun.
Gosh, I can't believe an hour went so fast.
I know, it went really fast. And thank you again to all the places hosting us, the groups and, you know, items hosting us tonight. This was really, really super fun.
So we are going to, this Facebook Live will be available for people to watch. And if you're watching it live, you can still put a comment. We won't pick the winners until... I don't even know what today is. We'll give it a couple of days, and then we'll pick our winners. And feel free to share our video and go out and buy our books. If you haven't read one or the other one of us, check out the other one. And we're so glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Thanks.
Bye.